Huddle with Corporate Cars, delivering affordable luxury European vehicles nationwide.
And on the Huddle today, very good afternoon to Josie Pagani and Cam Slater.
Hello, Greg. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too, Josie. Colin Craig, he admits he smacks his daughter. Police say they're not going to prosecute. What does that do as far as the anti-smacking, let's call it a guideline rather than a law goes?
Well, I went away on Christmas and he was busy saying he had no evidence either way if Father Christmas existed or something daft. And then you come back, the first thing we're talking about is this. And making something like his bottom line in government, his right to smack his kid's bottom, I'm just not sure that's a very good political idea to start election year.
It's slightly creepy, isn't it, Josie?
Yeah. I mean, most people get into politics to change the world and make it a better place. I'm not sure anyone really gets into politics to make sure we're allowed to smack our kids.
The smacking debate's dead and buried. There's a few single-issue nutters that are out there who are clutching to this, and they've gone through various different iterations of parties, and now they're clutching onto the coattails of Colin Craig. But I find it slightly creepy that a guy who's got around about an 8-year-old daughter is still smacking her. I mean, I gave up smacking my children, around about the time just before they went to school.
Well, I love that there was some confusion on Twitter this afternoon because apparently the first article said that he smacks his kids. And someone said, but he's only got one child. So then there was speculation as to whether or not he had undeclared kids, or maybe he was just picking random kids off the street to
just goes and smacks them.
Perhaps he's saying if he had more kids, he would smack them.
Yeah, I think he said he flicks her on the back of the hand, was what he said.
Clip around the ears, isn't there? But, you can't do that.
Maybe he keeps telling us he's learned, but really, to start the year, and now everybody is thinking 2014, this is National Party's potential coalition partner. They're going to campaign on less gay people, more smacking.
We're going to have two attention-seeking parties, aren't we? We're going to have Colin Craig seeking the attention of the National Party, and we're going to have a dodgy ratbag German at seeking the attention of the Greens and the Labour Party.
Oh, that's going to be marvellous. It'll be a combination of the Wolf of Wall Street with some sort of mad libertarian, you're right not to wear seatbelts and have free internet.
And all advised by hard left loony Martin Bradbury.
But the funny thing is, I mean, John Key said late, I think in the middle of last year, that if he had to do a deal with a few cop cases to the right of him, he'd do it to get his team over the line in Parliament.
And that's the reality, isn't it? Because we've just heard today Matthew Hooton said he's not going to stand for ACT. Rodney Hyde said yesterday he's not going to stand for ACT. So unless they get their act together really, really quickly, pun not intended, the likes of Colin Craig or maybe not Kim.com so much, but Colin Craig are actually going to be important.
It turns out nobody wants to stand for ACT, isn't it?
It's a choice between mad and bad. You've got the mad people of Colin Craig's party, Kim.com's mad as well, and then there's the bad as in Winston Peters. But the one thing about the bad is at least they're predictable.
Yeah, it is already looking a bit like a circus, isn't it? Where you've got people queuing up to say they don't want to stand for ACT. You've got Colin Craig saying he's going to campaign on smacking kids. It's looking highly entertaining.
And then you've got Kim.com on the second anniversary of his Coatesville mansion raid next Monday, I think it is.
His party will probably die about the same time he gets an orange jumpsuit and stainless steel bracelets.
I don't think he realises how hard it is to set up a party. I mean, you have to get 500 financial members. Now, he might think he's got millions of Facebook friends, but when you actually ask them for money to sign up to join a party, well, it's going to be a bit harder than he thinks.
Well, ask Peter Dunn. He'll tell you that one, won't he? Just going back to the anti-smacking law, police have said they're not going to prosecute. Nothing can happen unless there's a private prosecution. You would think Graham McCready.
Yeah. Oh, honestly, can we prosecute him for something? Like, I don't know.
He's
wasting
a serial
our time.
litigant, isn't he? But I do wish the media had stopped describing him as a former accountant. The guy's actually a convicted blackmailer and tax fraudster. Why don't they use that instead of former accountant?
I thought he was getting tired anyway. Like, he backed out of the John Banks court case because he said he was just a bit tired.
All right. He's got Lenny Brown to smack around this week.
Well, who knows? He could have Colin Craig at this rate as well. Now, with cyclists, we talked about this before, cyclists running red lights in Auckland transport numbers out. 60% of the people jumping red lights are on a bicycle. I would have thought that was about the last thing you'd want to do if you've got nothing but a pair of spandex pants and a crash helmet between you and oncoming traffic.
It's the lycra. It's the lycra shield that's protecting them. These rat bags. They run around. They're 2% of the road users. They want us to spend millions and millions of dollars on cycle lanes and a whole lot of other stuff for just 2% of the road users. They don't pay any road user tax, and then they just go and break the rules. It's no wonder they get run over.
Yeah, but the thing is, my kids bike to school, and honestly, I have my heart in my mouth every day when they jump on a bike.
It's good for them, Josie.
And it is good for them. But I think I just look at it and I think it's like there's this invisible line between roads, cycle lanes, and pavement,
There was no
and we're all
cycle lanes
dependent.
when I rode to school. Why do we need them now?
Well, we used to ride on the pavement, and to hell with it, because no one was going to ride on the road.
Slipstream buses riding to Auckland Grammar every day. We did some highly risky things, but the number of people who tumbled off and had accidents was infinitesimal. You've got a whole lot of. I've actually sat down and thought about this. You've got all of these middle-aged blokes who are actually having a midlife crisis but don't have the guts or the money to buy a Harley, and so they're out there in their lycra riding around on...
Well, it's the new Golf, isn't it? That's what I've heard it called. It's the new Golf. Get yourself a flash bicycle and get yourself some lycra gear and off you go.
He's even talking about getting a bike and all that lycra gear. I can't think of anything worse.
Oh, come on, haven't you got a New Year's resolution to get fit and gorgeous, Cam, I'm sure, haven't you?
Lycra,
I've got a
Cam.
New Year's resolution to cause as much chaos and mayhem as possible in politics.
But I do think, look, the thing about what's awful about this particular case that we've had this week of this guy who died, that he clearly wasn't a very experienced rider.
And he ran a red light.
He ran a red light. He made an error of judgment, but he didn't deserve to die for it. And so you've got there's two things. The roads have to...
lanes wouldn't have stopped that.
But the roads have to be built in a way that they accommodate us making stupid mistakes, because we all do it sometimes, right? So it's always a combination of driving well or cycling well and the roads being built.
Josie, was 8 last year, and we're saying we're going to spend millions and millions of dollars to try and protect 8 people when the evidence is that the vast majority of cyclists run red lights anyway.
All right, we are back in a moment. Cool your jets, Josie. Josie Pagani and Cameron Slater back in just a moment. 18 minutes away from 6 o'clock. News Talk ZB.
It's Greg Boyd in for Larry Williams.
With the new ANZ, the bank that gives you more on News Talk ZB.
16 minutes away from 6 o'clock. Clock. Cameron Slater and Josie Pagani join us again in the huddle. David Bain, he went to great pains to not have the media and not make a big deal of his wedding, and ended up getting the sort of attention most celebrities would give a limb for anyway. That, though, has turned rather sour today with the revelation that a convicted murderer and rapist who was out on parole was one of the guests.
So what?
I feel really sorry for the parents of the victim here, the girl that he killed, because they're seeing these images and it would just be like, a stab to the heart for them, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but he's out on parole and that's our law, and he's allowed to conduct himself as long as he's not committing any crimes while he's doing it. Otherwise, he gets reefed back to prison.
Well, and that's right. I mean, the parole board, we have seen a lot more evidence than us in terms of whether this guy is rehabilitated or not, or whether he's done his time, and at some point he has to come out. So the parole board have obviously looked at everything and decided that he's okay to be released. It's just, you can imagine what it looks like to that family. But the real question here is isn't it? We're kind of judging him for picking someone like this.
Yes, we are, because when all's said and done, whatever your opinion on David Bain's case, inviting someone like that along, and obviously you met him in prison, along to your wedding does say something, doesn't it?
Well, no, not really, Greg, because when you've spent half of your adult life, or more than half of your adult life, in prison, the only friends you're going to have are those who you're in prison with. Either that or the strange Joe Karam. Who would you want as a best man? I'd rather have a murderer than Joe Karam.
But the point is, I mean, David Bain has the right to be treated as a man who's not guilty. He's been found not guilty, and whatever you or I or anyone thinks, he's got a right to be treated like that. And as Cam says, this is the guy that he has basically lived with for many, many years, and clearly they developed a friendship. This guy's older. He's obviously been someone who's looked out for him, for David Bain. So he tried not to have media attention on his wedding, and it's not his fault that all the magazines and everybody wants to get a piece of him.
No,
presumably, though, kids
jokes were funny, though, weren't they?
No, Cameron.
The what was funny?
No, Cameron.
The Twitter
No, Cameron.
Oh, don't go there.
Don't go there, Cameron.
Because, we can't do that. But I still thought they were funny.
My God, Cameron Slater has reached a boundary.
I know. Isn't that good?
Yeah.
Look, presumably kids are going to be next, and the women's magazines are going to be lining up for that as well. You'd have to think, if you were David Bain and his new wife, if he's going to get the compensation money, and we were talking possibly $2 million, you'd get that and leave. Otherwise, he's not ever going to get let alone, is he?
No, it's going to be hard for him. But then he's lived with this for many, many years, hasn't he? And he's found love. And in the end, she's fallen in love with him and they've got married. So when I think about her, I think, well, that's her decision and good on her.
Yeah, having said that, she knew well what she was getting into. It's like people who married famous people or royals and say, oh, I didn't realise the pressure. Really?
Groupies too.
Yeah.
Are they ever going to let David Bain alone? I mean, it's been some time now since he's been out of prison. We all know that the compensation, he's hoping compensation's next. When's it going to stop, this fascination?
I think they will, Greg. And they'll stop when he and his publicist stop courting the media at the same time.
That's
when people will leave him alone. But when you've conducted your defence for your compensation solely and entirely in the media, and you have sold yourself to the media at every opportunity. I mean, take the finger marks, furore, which turned into nothing. It was all conducted at the behest and for the media. And when you do that, you can't then turn around and say, oh, no, I don't want the media anymore.
It's interesting the way that people use the media, isn't it? Because even politicians, when they use the media, their kids are young and cute, they'll take pictures of here I am, the family person. And the minute those kids grow up and get into any kind of trouble whatsoever, you can't then turn around and say to the media, back off, these are just my kids. You said, well, you used them when they were young and cute for photographs. So
and got paid very well, no doubt. Josie Pagani and Cameron Slater, we will leave it there with you both. Thank you so very, very much.